Hello Jade, very nice meeting you. My name is Susie.
Hey Susie, nice to meet you.
Hey Jade, I'm Lucy.
Hey Lucy.
So I understand you're an entrepreneur in China with Gung Ho Pizza, so
Correct.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Great.
Our first question is, what did you study at university and how did you start your career after graduation?
Okay, so I studied, my major was commerce and I majored in marketing management. I also did wasn't quite a diploma, but in Mandarin, so I did Mandarin studies, did 3 years of Mandarin. And I had a few kind of electives, which I did film studies, was my favorite elective. And did some other random courses around arts as well, but pretty much marketing and Mandarin. Yeah.
How does doing business in China differ from doing business in New Zealand?
Wow, okay, so probably the most obvious thing is scale. It's just on such a larger playing field. The other big difference is that in China you've got a lot of regulation with government, so being a socialist country, and almost a communist country, you've got the private sector and public sector at times work together, and it's very confusing to see which actually sector you're working in. So you have a lot more influence from the government in your business than you would, say, in New Zealand. And that would, without a doubt, be probably the biggest challenge and the biggest difference for New Zealanders going to China, is working with the government to achieve private sector goals.
How did your tertiary education prepare you for the responsibilities you now manage?
I would say it gave me a great grounding in Chinese. So when I went to China the first time, although I couldn't speak that well Chinese, to be honest, I had confidence to fail in Chinese. So I'd been failing for 3 years at uni, so it kind of gave me confidence to fail in the real world. Which actually, in hindsight, is a really important thing. It's a really important lesson that you can embrace your failures or things that you're not strong at, but having persistence to carry on and to not give up and get to the end goal. And so I kind of joke, but I was always bottom of my class in Chinese, but I made it to 3rd year, and then now I'd imagine I'd be the best Chinese speaker of my class, but not through intelligence, but more through persistence, right? So yeah, that'd be really what I think prepared me, was the ability to learn, but then gave me a grounding and confidence to fail.
What makes working in the food sector challenging?
I think all around the world it's the same. In food sector it's a hands-on business. You can't sit on your computer or your office or on your cell phone and get the job done. Obviously there's a lot of technologies now which allow for a lot more hands-off management, which I love. And I'm based in Auckland and I run a food and beverage company in China, and I use a lot of that on an app called WeChat, okay, Weixin, which I'm sure you guys know of. I pretty much run my business off that one app, but obviously there's parts of the business I need to be in the business and in the trenches with the team, and so that are things like food quality control, safety, certain trainings, customer engagement, and so. I think that's a challenge of food and beverage. You've got to be very hands-on to really be successful, and for some people they just find it probably a bit too hands-on, but I enjoy that. I love the whole social part of food and beverage. I love interacting with people. I love seeing a smile on a person's face, and I find it as food. I mean, who doesn't like food, and just being around food and talking about food and creating new food options I find really stimulating. And I never thought I'd be a restaurateur or in the food and beverage industry. It was never part of my master plan. I just kind of fell into it and enjoyed the ride to date.
What competitive advantages can Gung Ho benefit from?
We've got a few that we've developed. So in terms of benefit from, and we can benefit from being from New Zealand. As a big advantage in China. The brand New Zealand has a really strong reputation now in China. So we've leveraged that a lot with government and NZTE and a lot of government support and using the New Zealand brand. But we've created a lot of competitive advantages, and the main one would be a company culture. And if you're in food and beverage in the service industry in China, and for anybody who's been to China will understand that the service standards are not as high as other probably international developed economies. And so there's a real opportunity there if you can develop a service culture. And if you look at economies like America, where it's probably over 75% of their economy is service-based, Singapore 90%. China right now I think is around about 20-25%. It's a massive opportunity for service industry, and service comes back to service, to treating people well, with respect, professionalism, and the way you build that is through company culture. And that's really been our biggest challenge: is how do you take a local Chinese kid of 18 years old into the business who's come from a farm, to expect them to be able to deliver to a high-flying businessman a service standard that he can expect when he's never experienced service himself in his life. To then give that is really challenging. So we've got to find really creative ways to allow these guys to evolve and understand what service really means.
So based on your experience as an entrepreneur, what can students do to broaden their skill set before they graduate?
I kind of touched on it before, and I really feel it's about, not the word fail, but the confidence to put yourself into uncomfortable situations. And to me, if I look at what's allowed me to succeed in China, for part of my journey, I've had a lot more failures than successes, but the times I've succeeded, I think it's the ability to feel comfortable in the uncomfortable, right? And you got to get used to not needing to be in comfortable situations. You got to get used to that feeling a bit awkward and out of your zone and out of kind of the deep waters, and you got to get comfortable with that. It's kind of like surfing for the first time in a big wave. You can never get comfortable with it until you do it, and it's never going to feel comfortable. I mean, you look at big wave surfers, even to now, they have that tight chest and the rush of blood. They know it's coming, and it's kind of that. So I'd encourage students to put themselves in situations on a regular basis where they're not comfortable, and don't move towards your comfort zone. There's a great design I've seen once. It's got this little circle saying your comfort zone, and there's another cross over here saying a circle saying where all the good stuff happens. And it's not the things we necessarily gravitate towards. So I think if you can cultivate through social skills, through getting involved in clubs and socks, with your sports teams, or just going out tramping in Dunedin or whatever it is, really keep challenging yourself. And I think as you propagate that skill, then when you go into the greater world, whether it's New Zealand or abroad, you just feel a lot more at ease, and you're okay with it. And then you can really perform and understand the culture. So that would be my biggest I guess, advice in terms of succeeding in that respect.
Your employee team is critical to the success of the firm. What qualities does Gung Ho look for in graduate recruits?
Okay, so we hire on attitude and we fire on attitude. Okay, so we don't look at ability so much. To me, great teams are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And the extraordinary comes from attitude. It's not typically from ability. And so we have a very, very comprehensive onboarding program. For example, a delivery driver who delivers pizza, he'll go through 3 interviews. The longest will be about 45 minutes. He'll meet a senior, he'll meet an executive in that interview. And the idea is that we want to get the right culture in our people. And if you've got the right personality and attitude, we believe we can then train them and give them the skills they need to perform. But if you get really smart people in who have great ability but can't work with teams, don't do the hard yards, just don't really fit to our culture, then it's a lost cause. So we're really big on culture, on hiring on culture, promoting on culture, firing culture. I mean, I look at our head of our purchasing department, and she deals with, say, $20-30 million in stock. She was an elevator girl that I found. And she used to push buttons on my elevator in my apartment. But every time I went into the elevator, she had the biggest smile. And she was in the shittiest job in China. And she had this incredible attitude. And I was desperate to get her. I finally got her, and she came as a chef. Fast forward 10 years later, she's now in charge of our purchasing department. And I've got 5 or 10 stories like that. So that's what makes Gung Ho Gung Ho.
How important is innovation to your business?
Innovation is everything in terms of evolving a business. I don't think, if you ever found a business on innovation, I think it'll fail. I see a lot of tech companies that are based on some idea or some new widget, and that's great for the next 3 to 6 months, but technology moves at such a pace that they'll no longer be relevant. What's more important is you've got people who can really evolve, and create and develop their thinking, and so innovation is really important to add to a business, but it doesn't create a business. And so in our business, for example, we'll have an app, which you can order the food and deliver on. And that's great, and it definitely adds sales to a business. And you got drones now delivering pizza. I know in New Zealand with Domino's. So these are all things which are kind of exciting and whatnot. But it sure as hell I don't make the business. So we always look at also proven technologies. We'll innovate, but we like to be a fast follower rather than developer. There's a lot of risk in developing technologies, and we're not a technology company, so we're better to see what technologies are getting traction, and then we'll try and choose the winning horse, and then go with that is the way we look at innovation.
If you were to start your career again, what is one thing you would do differently?
I read that question and I thought about it now, and I'll say that I don't believe in regrets, I don't believe in looking backwards, so I find that question quite hard to answer. But I understand the logic of it, which is like saying, well, what have you learned which maybe you could pass on to somebody else at that stage in their life, not what I would do different. I think in terms of what I'd do differently, I'd probably put my relationships, make them more important in my career. And I went off to China by myself as 20 years old. I've lived in China for the last 20 years. And part of that has been cut off from New Zealand and my family and my close friends from uni and whatnot. And there's definitely times during that I got so focused on what I was doing in China and building up that I'd lose track of a lot of old friendships and even at times neglect my mum's birthday or my dad's Father's Day and these kind of things. And that's all part of life, but I definitely advise that no matter what journey you're on, that at the end of the day, the most important thing without a doubt is relationships. And if you keep those in order, you're going to have a pretty, successful life. Don't associate success with, external projects or careers, or I think that's pretty much a fast way to failure. So yeah, I'd just say just keep focused on relationships, and that'll be your best support on your other journeys.
How do you maintain a balance between the demands of your business and having time for yourself?
I think it's about setting boundaries as well around. And being strict with yourself about what your true priorities are. And at times when you're running a business, we've got 280 employees, we're building numerous stores and whatnot. It can be a little bit overwhelming at times, and then you can get drawn away from your private life. But I've learnt, and it's always a constant battle, but to really set some certain boundaries. For example, I won't typically check like my WeChat after like 8 o'clock at night. In the morning, I always give myself about 3 hours in the morning for my own time. So I'll do fitness, I'll eat well, I'll read, I'll write a journal. I'll do these things I need to do in the morning for myself. And then I feel the rest of the day I'm okay. I can get dragged around by the company or media or whoever I need to work with that day. But I know that I've served myself in the morning. So I really believe in the morning ritual. It's a really strong skill to have, and I've spent a lot of successful guys that I admire, and they're really big on this, putting aside time in the morning for yourself. Just sets the day up, and you get, kind of getting out of bed in the wrong foot kind of thing. It's a way to address that. You can get yourself in the right position, and it could be anything from a 10-minute ritual, right? I would go up to 3 hours my ritual, but if you get that kind of flowing, yeah, things flow from there.
Thanks so much for coming in, Jade. It was so interesting.
Hey, pleasure. Really good to be here. Hey, pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah.